Hello, my name is Matt and this is Pixel Burn, where I take a look at some of the more important, interesting or irritating things to have happened in the week's gaming news. And with the November rush well and truly over and done with, there's precious bloody little of any actual worth to comment on, but I'll try and make it entertaining for you nonetheless. For PC owners, the biggest news was the Steam Autumn Sale, which emerged on Wednesday this week to feast on bank balances worldwide, like some unspeakable Lovecraftian star god that devours money instead of souls. Bank account dwindling! Poverty looming!
Bargains overwhelming!
Which of course is a perfect opportunity to clog up your Steam library with even more games you'll probably never find the time to actually play. At least not before the conclusion of your inexorable march towards the grave. Thankfully, the sale is due to last only until December 2nd, whereupon it'll doubtless soon be followed by the Steam Holiday Sale right before Christmas, or your cultural equivalent. Now before you start throwing cash around like a chimp in Scrooge McDuck's money bin, there are some informal rules to abide by if you want to get the best bang for your buck. They're not compulsory or anything, they're just sensible. Firstly, and this is the number one rule of any Steam sale, never buy a game unless it's on a daily deal, flash sale or community choice. The last two apply more to the summer and holiday sales, but they're still part of a good habit to get into. Games in a daily deal are usually 75% off, and that's about the best discount Steam will ever give you, besides the rare 80% discount. If you see a game on regular non-deal discount for say 40% off or 50% off, then don't buy it because it's likely a trap. What'll happen is you'll buy it for 50% off or 40% off, only to then kick yourself when it goes on sale for 75% off the following day, otherwise known as the law of sod. Another thing to do during this time is add games to your wishlist if you haven't already. Steam will send you an email whenever that game goes on sale, so if there's loads of games you've got your eyes on, it's a great way to keep track of which ones are going for less. Although if you're interested in so many games that you need a list to keep track of them all, then you're probably already using the wishlist feature anyway, so that last point was a complete waste of both my time and yours. Another handy hint is if you see a bundle on discount, go right ahead and buy it, even if one of the games in it is already part of a daily deal. Bundles rarely go lower during a sale, plus you get a whole bunch of games for a little bit more than you'd pay for a single one. The exception to most of these rules is the last day of the sale. Daily deals traditionally come back at the end for a sort of encore, and any game you see discounted on the final day likely won't go any lower for some time. So if it's the last day of the sale, you see something you want, and it's at a discount, go hog wild and buy it. No one will judge you for it. Unless you buy Aliens Colonial Marines, of course. One game you might not want to buy in the sale, 75% off or otherwise, is Dark Souls 2. Because From Software and Bandai Namco, or is it Namco Bandai? I can never remember. Announced this week that a Game of the Year edition for Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS3, PS4 and PC is due for release in April next year, called Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. No, I have no idea what it means either, and I completed Dark Souls 2. As well as containing the Crown of the Sunken King, Crown of the Old Iron King and Crown of the Ivory King DLC, this new version will also reportedly feature better graphics for Xbox One, PS4 and PC owners, which will likely be the graphics fans were originally promised for Dark Souls 2, specifically these great and moody lighting effects first shown off at E3, only to be removed shortly before release because the 360 and PS3 couldn't handle them. For those who own the original Dark Souls 2, From Software will also be patching in some new NPCs and something they're calling augmented item descriptions, which just sounds like a fancy way of saying they're making item descriptions a whole lot less vague. Even though item descriptions being vague, yet ultimately interconnected as part of a wider story that players have to piece together themselves, is only, one of the main appeals of the Dark Souls series. But what about people who already own the PC version of Dark Souls 2, aka the best version of Dark Souls 2, with its better resolution and higher frame rate, which caused your weapons and armour to break much faster than they do on the consoles, but I digress. Can PC owners upgrade for free with a patch minus the DLC, or will they have to buy an entirely new version of the game in order to enjoy the kind of lush lighting effects they've probably already modded in anyway? Well, that's where things get a bit confusing. For PC owners at least. For console owners, it's all pretty cut and dried. If you're a 360 or PS3 owner, then Dark Souls 2 Schooner of the Fish Sticks is basically your standard Game of the Year edition. Dark Souls 2 with all the DLC, bish bash bosh, job done. If you already own Dark Souls 2 and all the DLC on either of those platforms, there's no point in you buying Dark Souls 2 Scallops of the Feisty Sun. All the new stuff you're eligible for, you'll be getting for free in a content patch. Simple. Now if you own an Xbone or PS4 and you buy Dark Souls 2 Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, you'll get the complete Dark Souls experience with all the DLC, 6-player multiplayer and snazzier graphics. And you also have another actual game to play on your glorified Netflix box. Multiplayer will not be cross-gen however, so PS4 owners can't go jumping into the games of PS3 players, and Xbox One owners won't get their asses handed to them by invading veterans of the 360 version, which also splits the multiplayer community somewhat. But again, it's all crystal clear. You get a game that wasn't previously available on your system in a complete package with all the DLC, as well as some extra graphical bells and whistles to impress the peanut gallery. It's so simple, even my nan could understand it. Conversely, Bandai Namco Bandai have been far more vague about what this means for PC owners. The initial announcement refers to the existing PC version as the DirectX 9 one, and Dark Souls 2 House of the Rising Sun as the DirectX 11 one, implying they are entirely separate versions. So if you own the original DirectX 9 version and all the DLC, you'd literally have to fork out an unspecified amount of fucking quid just for some spiffier lighting effects. Yet this tweet from the Ban Nam Nam Ban Whatever Twitter account tries to spin it somewhat, clarifying that PC version owners will get some new features for free, but not all the DLC. Firstly, I wasn't expecting to get the DLC for free. Anyone who did is quite frankly far too naive and innocent for this cold, cruel world. Secondly, we already know we're getting a whole bunch of new stuff for free. That'll be the new NPCs and enhanced item descriptions. What we really want to know is if Namco are trying to charge PC gamers full price all over again for the same sodding game. A question that Namco's flustered Twitter manager basically answered with, we'll get back to you on that one. Gee, thanks. So, shall I lube up my wallet, or does a bit of resistance only make you harder? In the best of all possible worlds scenario, the expanded multiplayer count, graphical bells and whistles and other non-DLC gubbins would be patched into the existing PC version. I certainly wouldn't ask nor expect From Software to hand all that DLC to me free on a silver platter. The next best thing would be to charge a small upgrade fee for existing PC version owners to upgrade to Dark Souls 2 shameless of the cash grab. Steam certainly has the ability to let you do that, and it's precisely what Eidos Montreal did for the director's cut of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Finally, the worst case scenario for Dark Souls 2 Scalper of Wallets is that it will be a standalone release for which PC gamers will have to pay full price again if they want to play with more than 2 friends, have snazzier lighting effects and don't know how to install mods. Guess which of those options I put my money on Namco Bandai going for. Elsewhere in the news, Square Enix revealed they will be announcing a new console-specific RPG in December that isn't a remake of an existing RPG. Is it a sequel to The World Ends With You, one of the best JRPGs of the last 10 years? Because if it isn't, then whoop-de-fucking-do. You might as well have announced Square Enix employees not just dossing around with their thumbs up their arses, for all I care. Actually, there are some more details than that. The news in question came from a leaked interview from Famitsu magazine with Square Enix president Yosuke Matsuda, in which Famitsu asked, "Looking at your company's recent lineup, I get the impression that there's been a lot of Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy related remakes or smartphone version re-releases, but Square Enix still has a lot of other IPs, doesn't it? I'm always wishing you'd revisit such IPs." To which Matsuda replied, "That's currently in the works." Now maybe I'm reading too much into this, but that does sound an awful lot like Square Enix might actually be going back to some of their non-Final Fantasy franchises. But then there have been so many bloody Final Fantasy games, I've forgotten they actually have any other properties. Except for The World Ends With You, of course. Look, I just want a bloody sequel to The World Ends With You, okay? The game that in my mind could have blossomed into a franchise capable of being Square Enix's answer to Atlus's Persona series. That is, if Square Enix hadn't chucked it in a bloody storeroom somewhere to gather dust. What wasn't there to love about it? For starters, it was a brilliant concept, a cross between Death Note and Battle Royale, set in a contemporary urban setting with a strong sense of magical realism and rooted in Japanese youth culture. It was an action RPG too, so battles were dynamic and not just a series of timed menus. The difficulty was also customisable, so you could progress through the game for the story at a steady pace, or increase the risk in exchange for greater rewards. The obligatory Square Enix RPG minigame was actually fun and didn't suck, unlike Triple Triad in Final Fantasy VIII. Oh, and the soundtrack. Did I mention the soundtrack? It was fucking awesome! I mean really, what else could be better than a sequel to this bloody fantastic game on home consoles? Well, I guess there's always a chance of a proper sequel to Chrono Trigger, that'd be nice too. But I'm sure plenty of you out there have your own ideas about other properties Squeenix should dust off and bring out of the cellar. They're all wrong of course, but you're still entitled to have them. Back in April when Sony sold all of its 9.5 million shares in Square Enix, I said at the time that if I'd been in charge of Square Enix, I would have taken that as a wake-up call. Maybe Yosuke Matsuda has done just that. We'll find out in December. That's all for this episode of Pixel Burn. If you liked it, please do let me know, and let your friends, family and Bandai Namco Bandai know as well. At the very least, I hope you found it tolerable. If you didn't like it, however, then I'm sorry, but I had to remove all the enjoyment effects at the last minute for performance reasons. Either way, you can go now.